Here's something most people will never hear in school. Every time you fill your tank, buy anything at a store, open your bank app, you're interacting with a system built more than a century ago by one man. A man almost nobody truly understands. John D. Rockefeller. Some call him a genius. Some call him a ruthless monopolist. But the truth sits somewhere deeper. Rockefeller didn't just build a company. He built the operating system of modern capitalism, and the rest of the world never escaped it. Think about your last week. The plastic in your home came from petrochemicals. The medications in your cabinet were developed through research funding structures he pioneered. The way universities operate, how hospitals are organized, even how charitable foundations function, his fingerprints are on all of it. When adjusted for inflation, Rockefeller's wealth peaked at around $400 billion in today's dollars. That makes him potentially the richest American who ever lived, wealthier than Jeff Bezos, Elon Musk, and Bill Gates combined at their peaks. But money was never the end game. Power was the product. Systems were the legacy. Most documentaries will tell you what Rockefeller did. Today, I want you to see how he did it and what it means for your own journey. Because whether you're building a business, creating content, or just trying to understand why the world works the way it does, understanding Rockefeller is understanding the blueprint itself. The boy who decided to be rich. Rockefeller wasn't born into comfort. His father was a traveling salesman who disappeared more than he appeared. His mother stretched pennies until they became thin as paper. But young John had something rare. He studied numbers the way some kids study magic tricks. He understood order, structure, patterns. At 16, he wrote a line in his notebook, "I will be wealthy." Not I hope. Not maybe. A decision. Simple. Direct. Dangerous. That one sentence became the foundation of everything that followed. Born on July 8, 1839, in Richford, New York, John Davison Rockefeller grew up in a household defined by contradiction. His father, William Avery Rockefeller, called himself a botanic physician, but was really a con artist who sold miracle cures to desperate farmers. He'd vanish for months, then return with pockets full of cash and stories nobody believed. The family moved constantly, always one step ahead of something. His mother, Eliza, was the opposite. Devout Baptist, strict disciplinarian. She taught John that wastefulness was a sin and thrift was a virtue. Every penny had a purpose. Every decision had a consequence. While other boys played, John kept ledgers. He tracked every cent he earned doing chores. He loaned money to neighbors at interest. At 12 years old, he was already thinking like a banker. His first job was as an assistant bookkeeper at Hewitt and Tuttle, a Cleveland commission merchant firm. He earned 50 cents a day. But he didn't just do the work, he studied it. How goods moved, how margins worked, how relationships turned into revenue. He saved aggressively. When he turned 20, he had $1,000 saved, equivalent to about $35,000 today. He partnered with Maurice Clark to start a produce commission business. Their timing was perfect. The Civil War created massive demand for food supplies. By 23, Rockefeller was already wealthy by local standards. But he saw something big on the horizon, something that would change everything. Oil, the industry no one could control. When Rockefeller entered the oil business, it was chaos, overproduction, explosions, waste everywhere, everyone fighting for pennies. He didn't see oil. He saw disorder that needed a ruler, so he created one. Rockefeller believed that if something can be organized, it can be dominated. He built systems, eliminated inefficiencies, negotiated better rates, and reinvested everything. While others chased quick cash, he chased control. In 1859, Edwin Drake struck oil in Titusville, Pennsylvania. Within months, the region exploded into madness. Fortunes were made overnight. Fortunes were lost by morning. It was a gold rush all over again, except messier, more dangerous, and more unpredictable. Oil gushed from the ground faster than anyone could store it. Prices swung wildly. A barrel might sell for $10 one week and 10 cents the next. Drillers focused on extraction. They punched holes in the ground, prayed for a gusher, then watched their crude spoil in open pits because they had no way to move it or refine it. Rockefeller saw the inefficiency immediately. He didn't want to gamble on wells. He wanted to control what happened after the oil came out of the ground. In 1863, he and partners invested in a refinery in Cleveland. At the time, Cleveland was perfectly positioned halfway between the oil fields of Pennsylvania and the markets of the East Coast, with access to railroads and Great Lake shipping. But Rockefeller didn't just build another refinery. He studied every step of the process. How much waste occurred during refining? How much it cost to transport a barrel? What byproducts could be salvaged and sold? While competitors threw away residue, Rockefeller turned it into lubricants, paraffin wax, and petroleum jelly. He captured value others ignored. He negotiated secret deals with railroads. In exchange for guaranteed volume, he received lower shipping rates, sometimes half what competitors paid. This gave him an enormous cost advantage. He could sell refined oil cheaper than anyone else and still make more profit. By 1865, his refinery was the largest in Cleveland. By 1870, he formalized what would become the most powerful corporation in American history, Standard Oil. Standard Oil, the quiet empire. By his mid-30s, Rockefeller controlled 90% of America's oil. Think about that. Not half, not most, 90%. And he did it quietly. He bought struggling refineries instead of fighting them. He lowered prices until competitors surrendered. He invested in logistics until nobody could rival him. He reinvented business strategy long before books existed. Standard Oil wasn't a company. It was an empire with invisible walls. Amazon, Apple, Google, Aramco. All of them echo moves Rockefeller mastered first. Standard Oil's dominance wasn't accidental. It was engineered through a strategy so sophisticated that business schools still teach it today. First, vertical integration. Rockefeller didn't just refine oil, he controlled every step. He bought pipelines so he wasn't dependent on railroads. He built storage tanks so he could stockpile during price drops. He created his own barrel-making operation so he didn't have to buy from suppliers. Every middleman was eliminated. Every margin was captured. Second, horizontal integration. He systematically acquired competitors, but he was strategic about it. He'd approach a struggling refinery owner with an offer, sell to Standard Oil and receive stock in the company, or compete until you're bankrupt. Most took the deal. Those who didn't found themselves undercut on price, starved of rail access, or crushed by coordinated market pressure. By 1880, Standard Oil refined over 90% of America's oil and controlled most pipelines and transportation infrastructure. Rockefeller had created the first true monopoly of the industrial age. But his genius extended beyond oil. He pioneered corporate espionage, gathering intelligence on competitors' costs and strategies. He used legal structures like the trust to centralize control while maintaining the appearance of independent companies. The Standard Oil Trust, formed in 1882, allowed Rockefeller to manage dozens of companies as one entity, bypassing state laws that restricted corporations from operating across borders. He also understood public relations before the term existed. He gave generously to churches and charities, positioning himself as a devout Christian businessman rather than a robber baron. Critics called his tactics ruthless. Admirers called them brilliant. The truth is they were both. Standard Oil set the template every tech giant follows today. Dominate your core market. Integrate vertically. Acquire competitors. Control infrastructure. Reinvest profits. Expand relentlessly. Jeff Bezos studied Rockefeller. So did Bill Gates. The playbook hasn't changed, only the industry. The system, the blueprint of modern wealth. Toward the end of his career, Rockefeller shifted from business to architecture. Not physical buildings, but systems of wealth, philanthropy, taxation, and legacy. He built foundations that still operate today. He created structures for protecting wealth across generations. He influenced medicine, education, religion, and global charity. The Rockefeller Foundation helped shape the modern medical system. Their influence still touches policies, research, and global health initiatives. This is why you can't escape his system. It's everywhere. It's inside the rules you live by. Whether you admire him or criticize him, you're walking through doors he built. In 1897, Rockefeller began withdrawing from day-to-day business operations. He was 58 years old and already the richest man in America. But retirement for Rockefeller didn't mean golf and leisure. It meant building his second empire, one that would outlast him by centuries. He created the Rockefeller Institute for Medical Research in 1901, which became Rockefeller University. This institution funded groundbreaking work in virology, genetics, and biochemistry. Scientists that helped develop treatments for yellow fever, discovered blood groups, and advanced our understanding of DNA. In 1913, he established the Rockefeller Foundation with an initial endowment of $100 million, about $3 billion today. Its mission was audacious, to promote the well-being of mankind throughout the world. The foundation funded public health campaigns that eradicated hookworm in the American South, created the first schools of public health, supported the development of a yellow fever vaccine, and helped establish the field of molecular biology. They didn't just give money. They built systems. They trained professionals. They changed how entire fields operated. Rockefeller also gave $80 million to the University of Chicago, transforming it into a world-class research institution. He funded Spelman College, supporting education for African-American women at a time when few others would. By the time he died in 1937 at age 97, he'd given away over $540 million, roughly $9 billion in today's money. But this wasn't just generosity. It was strategy. Philanthropy allowed Rockefeller to reshape his public image from monopolist to humanitarian. It gave him influence over education, healthcare, and scientific research. It created tax advantages and protected family wealth across generations. The Rockefeller family remains influential today, not because they own oil companies, but because they built institutions that shape policy, fund research, and guide global initiatives. When you hear about global health programs, think tanks shaping economic policy, or major universities driving innovation, there's a good chance Rockefeller's fingerprints are somewhere in the foundation. He didn't just accumulate wealth. He institutionalized it. The controversy, genius or tyrant. Let's be honest, not everyone loved Rockefeller's rise. Some saw him as a strategic genius. Others saw him as a villain. His monopoly sparked America's first antitrust laws. He was accused of squeezing competition, manipulating markets, and controlling too much. And maybe they were right. But here's the twist. Even after the U.S. government broke Standard Oil into pieces, those pieces became Exxon, Chevron, Mobil, Amoco, and more. Breaking him made him richer. You can destroy the company, but you can't break the system. By the 1890s, Rockefeller had become the most hated man in America among certain circles. Journalists called him the embodiment of corporate greed. Politicians campaigned against his monopoly. Workers and small business owners saw him as the enemy. Ida Tarbell, a pioneering investigative journalist, published a history of the Standard Oil Company in 1904. Her exhaustive 19-part series exposed Rockefeller's ruthless business practices in devastating detail. She revealed secret railroad rebates, predatory pricing designed to bankrupt competitors, and industrial espionage. She documented how Standard Oil representatives would visit rival refineries, assess their operations, then systematically destroy them through coordinated economic attacks. Tarbell's work fueled public outrage and political action. President Theodore Roosevelt, the trust buster, made breaking up monopolies a centerpiece of his presidency. In 1911, the Supreme Court ruled that Standard Oil violated the Sherman Antitrust Act and ordered its dissolution. The company was split into 34 independent entities. Rockefeller's response? Silence, followed by strategy. Those 34 companies included what would become ExxonMobil, Chevron, BP America, and Marathon Oil. Because Rockefeller held stock in the parent company, he now held stock in all the offspring. And here's the kicker. The breakup removed the coordination that had kept prices stable. The new companies competed, innovated, and grew. As they did, the value of Rockefeller's holdings skyrocketed. Breaking up Standard Oil made Rockefeller even wealthier. The controversy around his methods remains. Did he destroy free competition? Absolutely. Did he exploit workers and manipulate markets? Yes. Did he use his power to influence politicians and suppress opposition? Without question. But did he also create efficiencies that lowered costs for consumers? Did he build infrastructure that enabled America's industrial rise? Did he standardize an industry that had been chaotic and wasteful? Also yes. Rockefeller's legacy isn't black and white. It's the entire spectrum, brilliance and brutality innovation and exploitation, generosity and control. He proved that you can build an empire, face destruction, and still win. Because if the system itself is yours, breaking it just multiplies your influence. The lesson: study the system or stay inside it. Rockefeller wasn't a superhero. He wasn't lucky. He wasn't connected. He was deliberate, disciplined, patient, obsessed with order. And whether you're an entrepreneur, a creator, a student, or someone trying to build a new life, here's a real takeaway. You don't escape systems. You outgrow them. You study them. Or you create your own. Rockefeller created his. The real question is, will you keep living inside someone else's system? Or finally build a one meant for you? Let's bring this full circle. What can someone living in 2024 actually learn from a 19th century oil tycoon? Everything. First lesson: master the fundamentals obsessively. Rockefeller didn't succeed because he had a brilliant flash of insight. He succeeded because he understood costs, margins, logistics, and efficiency better than anyone else. He tracked every penny. He knew his numbers cold. Most people today chase trends and hacks. Rockefeller would tell you to master the boring basics first. Second lesson: control the infrastructure, not just a product. Standard Oil didn't just sell oil, it controlled pipelines, railroads, storage, and distribution. Today, that means owning your audience, your platform, your distribution channels. Don't build your empire on rented land. Third lesson: think in systems, not transactions. Rockefeller never optimized for one deal. Every decision fed into a larger structure. He was playing a game with a 100-year timeline while others were playing for the quarter. If you're building anything, whether it's a business, a personal brand, or a skill set, think systematically. How does each piece connect? What compounds over time? Fourth lesson: reinvest relentlessly. Rockefeller lived modestly and poured profits back into expansion. While competitors extracted wealth, he built infrastructure. The discipline of delayed gratification made him unstoppable. Fifth lesson: adapt or die. When antitrust laws came for Standard Oil, Rockefeller didn't fight reality, he restructured. When public opinion turned, he pivoted to philanthropy. He was ruthless about winning, but flexible about how. The world today rewards the same traits it rewarded in 1870: strategic thinking, operational excellence, long-term vision, and the ability to build systems that create value beyond yourself. You might not be building an oil empire, but you are building something, and the principles remain the same. The question isn't whether you'll engage with systems, you're already inside them. The question is whether you'll learn to see them, understand them, and eventually build your own. Rockefeller saw a chaotic industry and created order. You can do the same in your field. The tools are different. The principles are eternal. Like, subscribe, and hit notifications for more deep dives into the people who shaped our world. The Rockefeller formula: how he actually thought. Most people think Rockefeller won through aggression. They're wrong. He won through calculation. Let's go deeper into how his mind actually worked, because this is where the real lessons hide. Rockefeller had a few core operating principles that guided every decision. Principle 1: information is power. He maintained a network of informants across the oil industry. He knew what competitors paid for supplies, what their production costs were, even what their expansion plans looked like. He called it being thorough. Others called it espionage. Principle 2: partnerships over victories. When possible, Rockefeller preferred buying out competitors rather than destroying them. He'd offer stock in Standard Oil, making former rivals into partners with aligned incentives. This reduced opposition and increased loyalty. Principle 3: silence is strength. Rockefeller rarely gave interviews. He avoided public spectacle. While other tycoons like J.P. Morgan or Andrew Carnegie courted attention, Rockefeller operated in shadows. Less visibility meant less accountability. Principle 4: patience compounds. He never rushed. He'd wait months or years for the perfect acquisition opportunity. He'd endure short-term losses to secure long-term dominance. Time was his weapon. Principle 5: diversify after dominance. Only after securing control of refining did he expand into pipelines, then distribution, then retail. He never moved to the next level until the current level was locked down. These weren't instincts. They were methodologies he refined over decades. The legacy, what remains today. Rockefeller died in 1937, but his systems didn't. The institutions he built continue operating. The wealth he accumulated still circulates through family trusts. The business strategies he pioneered remain standard practice. Walk through Rockefeller Center in New York City. Visit Rockefeller University. Benefit from vaccines developed with Rockefeller Foundation funding. Every day, millions of people touch something his vision created. The real legacy isn't the oil. It's the architecture of power he left behind. And the question he forces us to ask, in a world built by giants, what will you build? If his journey through the world-forgotten giant stirred something in you, stay with us. HistoryMaker 101 is here to bring ancient wisdom into modern life, not just as entertainment, but as fuel for your own growth. New videos every Wednesday and Saturday. Subscribe. Drop a comment about which empire shocked you the most or which one you want us to cover next. Let's keep unearthing the world together, one lost kingdom at a time. Hit notifications for more deep dives into the people who shaped our world. Up next, Andrew Carnegie, Cornelius Vanderbilt, or J.P. Morgan. Comment which one you want to see first. Share this with someone who needs to hear it. And remember, history doesn't just happen. It's made. Make yours.